This is a stack of documents we've been reading through. It's something we've gotten used to doing as our team keeps learning about criminal cases being tossed out when defendants are found incompetent. These are hundreds of pages that detail years' worth of court proceedings and a defendant repeatedly being picked up by police. Despite that, this accused drunk driver might have all charges dropped because of Colorado law. Moments. Caught on camera.
Whoa.
Christmas. Birthdays, Halloween.
Hey, where's my treat? That's my treat.
For the Bowman family, cameras have captured the best days and the worst.
One person is dead after a fiery crash this morning in Golden.
It has been a non-stop nightmare.
But nightmares don't normally last this long.
3 years and 3 months.
That's how much time has passed since everything changed for Joseph and Billy Joe Bowman. Investigators say Guillermo Ramirez sped through a red light on Highway 6, going more than 100 miles per hour. The car hitting an SUV that burst into flames. According to these arrest documents, Ramirez's toxicology report on December 17, 2021, the day of the crash, revealed drugs in his system, plus a blood alcohol level of 0.225. Ramirez was only 18 years old at the time.
I didn't have enough time to react. All I could do was scream, and then he hit us.
The SUV that caught fire was carrying Joseph, Billy Joe, and their 66-year-old mom, Neely.
She was the most warm, sincere, giving, loving person that you'd ever meet.
She was fearless. You know, she was a single mom. She had to be.
The months after the crash left the siblings severely burned, and their mom much different than before. Instead of holidays, cameras captured hospital visits.
Oh, you're not gonna roll. You're okay. They got the brakes on.
Neely suffered third-degree burns, multiple fractures, and eventually had her leg amputated.
She was going to be okay, but then she just slowly deteriorated because of the injuries from the accident.
About 9 months later, Neely died.
She was literally tortured for the last 9 months of her life.
The passenger in Ramirez's car also died during the crash. Ramirez now faces multiple charges of vehicular homicide.
Our mother deserves justice. We are victims. We deserve justice too, but she deserves justice far more. And the idea that this could all just be dismissed and he could be allowed to walk away is unacceptable.
Ramirez's attorneys argue he is incompetent, something prosecutors disagree with. Under Colorado law, if the court agrees a defendant is mentally unable to aid in their own defense and likely never will be, a judge shall dismiss the case. We found out this is exactly what happened in another case against Ramirez. This one in 2021 in Denver. According to court documents, he was accused of beating up his then-girlfriend, but was eventually found incompetent in 2023. The charges dropped.
It's not a 20-minute checklist.
Leora Joseph is the director of the state's Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health, the agency overseeing competency evaluations.
We look at supporting documentation. We try and get as much medical history as we can, not to mention criminal justice history.
She cannot talk about specific patients or cases, but we did have questions for her about the system after reading through these documents. In Ramirez's case out of Golden, getting him evaluated faced delay after delay. In one letter, a doctor with the state reveals Ramirez did not show up for his appointment. In another instance, his defense attorney says the state could not complete Ramirez's evaluation due to, quote, budget constraints and high caseload volume. What do you feel when you hear a doctor say, hey, we have to delay this because of budget constraints and caseload?
I think sometimes someone doing an evaluation may say budget and caseload and not understand the big picture.
Typically, when you hear the word incompetent, you might think someone is severely mentally ill. But Director Joseph says not always.
It is a reality that someone may be incompetent to proceed, and yet they're not a danger to self or other, and they are not able to be hospitalized.
But in this case, documents indicate Ramirez could be a danger.
He has gotten arrested since he hit us.
After the crash and out on bond, Ramirez was picked up once for allegedly violating a protection order and another after he was caught by Lakewood police accused of drinking tequila in a parked car.
It's not a matter of if, it is a matter of when he endangers someone else.
Is there any concern that defendants might be gaming the system? Maybe they know this case will get dismissed if I'm found incompetent.
All of our evaluators, even our contract evaluators, are either psychologists or psychiatrists, and they check for malingering, which is what the faking it. I don't worry about that as much. I do worry to make sure that we have places for people to get the holistic treatment. It's not about gaming the system. It's about seeking appropriate levels of care for people.
This was her birthday.
Once again, Joseph and Billy Joe find themselves on camera, this time sitting in front of ours, calling for change in Colorado courts.
It puts us in a very sickening position. You have to go to bat at court and say, he needs better care. He needs doctors to actually give a damn and actually do what is necessary to rehabilitate him to the point of competency, not because I give a damn about him or his well-being. It's because I want to put him in jail where he belongs.
We have been briefly in touch with the family of the other young woman who died in the crash and are hoping to sit down with them soon. Ramirez's defense attorney declined our request for an interview with him. It's important to remember that in this case, the judge has not agreed that Ramirez is incompetent, at least not yet. But it is a decision the court will have to make, likely at a hearing on Thursday. Before that, we will be breaking down testimony from the doctor who evaluated Ramirez, revealing how she came to her conclusion. That story coming up on Wednesday. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck. Shannon and Jessica, so many questions left unanswered for victims in this case, like how exactly Colorado's competency system works and whether it is working. You're about to hear a lot of back and forth between attorneys and a doctor. It will outline the complexity of competency evaluations, but ultimately, the judge will have to decide, does this defendant meet the criteria to walk free?
One person is dead after a fiery crash this morning in Golden.
It all started in 2021, and since then,
It has been a nonstop nightmare.
Thank you, Mom. I love you.
siblings left without a mom,
She just slowly deteriorated.
and more than 1,000 days later, still left without justice.
The idea that this could all just be dismissed is unacceptable.
In our last investigation, we relied on a stack of VHS tapes to tell this story. This time, we're relying on a stack of papers. Hundreds of pages detailing what happened in a Jefferson County courtroom, what exactly doctors said that might wipe a case completely off the table.
They resented being brought to the stand. They resented being made to explain themselves.
That's how Joseph and Billy Joe Bowman remember this testimony. Multiple doctors explaining why their evaluations eventually concluded that this man, Guillermo Ramirez, is not fit to stand trial.
Ramirez is the one who should be dead. Neely Bowman should still be alive. The fact that she isn't should not go unpunished.
Neely Bowman, their mother, and another woman died after a car crash in Golden more than 3 years ago. Investigators believe Ramirez was at fault, behind the wheel of a car drunk and on drugs, going more than 100 miles per hour. Arrest documents say he didn't stop for a red light.
He is a menace to society. He is a danger to himself and everyone around him.
His interactions with law enforcement after that day didn't stop either. Court records reveal Ramirez was charged with crimes twice in other cases after the crash, both for violating a protection order, but those went nowhere. Dismissed after a doctor for court services decided Ramirez is, quote, incompetent and not restorable.
A person can be incompetent to stand trial and yet not meet criteria to be hospitalized.
You just heard Leora Joseph, the director of the state's Office of Civil and Forensic Mental Health. She can't comment on specific cases, but what she said is very important, because under Colorado law, a judge shall dismiss a case if a defendant is found incompetent and not restorable. So legally, they might not be mentally fit enough to face their charges, but fit enough that
They are not able to be hospitalized.
So how exactly does a doctor make this decision? This transcript is 3 days worth of testimony. In it, once you get past the legal and medical jargon, is a clear explanation. Dr. Trang Walker found Ramirez had an odd manner of speaking and difficulty finding his words, was fidgety, and seemed to have issues with attention. Plus, testimony reveals he was previously diagnosed with ADHD and only attended school through the 10th grade. She also said he did not want to discuss specifics in his case. Ultimately, she had concerns about Ramirez's ability to communicate with his attorney, especially under the stress of a court hearing. In her third and final evaluation, she found him incompetent to proceed and not restorable. But it's her word against prosecutors.
They have proven that in court too with the body cam footage.
In a rare move, the district attorney's office is trying to prove the doctor wrong. Prosecutors believe Ramirez is competent. The transcript shows attorneys played body cam videos of interactions Ramirez had with Denver police. One of them about a year and a half after the crash. A detective lays out what the video shows: Ramirez talking to paramedics after fighting in public. We don't have any of this video because police are not releasing it. But in the words of Dr. Walker, you can see Ramirez in a high-stress situation with officers after being assaulted. And yet he was able to communicate effectively, according to the doctor. When asked if her concerns about Ramirez remain the same after watching the video, the doctor says no, they do not. The juxtaposition between Ramirez's behavior in his evaluations and his behavior recorded on body cam begs prosecutors to ask this about his difficulty communicating. Can it be faked? Do you know? Dr. Walker, I imagine somebody could, but I haven't come across anybody. Prosecutors, you have no mechanism of being able to test them and confirm that. Dr. Walker, correct.
Remember, all of our evaluators, even our contract evaluators, are either psychologists or psychiatrists, and they check for malingering, which is what the faking it. I don't worry about that as much.
Prosecutors also addressed efforts to restore Ramirez to competency. These are outpatient meetings done over video. Dr. Walker noted Ramirez had fair to good attendance. Prosecutors pointed out he missed 4 appointments in May, 2 appointments in June, 2 appointments in July, 2 in August, 2 in September, and 3 in November, all of them in 2023.
He is committed to protecting himself and not taking responsibility for his actions.
After pages and pages representing hours and hours of direct examination, prosecutors asked the doctor one of their final questions. Would you do anything different now during your evaluation process? Dr. Walker admitted she would. There are other things she would have asked Ramirez to understand him. When all is said and done, Dr. Walker's faith in her opinion about Ramirez's competency has decreased, but she insists that, quote, considering everything, I would still come to the opinion that he's incompetent.
It is a sickening position to be in because I do not care about him. I want him to be in a cage where he belongs. But in order to do that, we are forced to advocate for the fact that he is getting inadequate care.
In your opinion, is he gaming the system or is the state's system failing?
Both.
I think both.
But this is no game. The outcome for all these people, Ramirez, Joseph, Billy Joe, and everyone else whose lives changed the night of that crash, rests in the mind of a judge. One who calls decisions like this some of the toughest. One who says, the gravity of my decision does not escape me.
What's concerning is how much the law as it currently stands is going to tie her hands.
We have previously reported on this competency law in Colorado. It took effect last summer. A sponsor of it told us the goal is essentially to prevent mentally ill people from sitting in the state's jails just waiting for their case to go anywhere, instead opening the door to get them treatment. But it's not clear in this case if charges are dropped whether Ramirez would be court ordered to get any sort of mental health care. The next hearing in this case is tomorrow. There is a chance it gets dismissed, which would mean Ramirez is a free man. Ramirez's attorney denied our request for an interview with either of them. We've got an in-depth explanation of how this competency law works coming up tonight at 6:30. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck. The judge made it clear in court this morning that her hands were tied. She was emotional as she laid everything out and said verbatim that the state's system is failing. She even agreed with the victims in this case that this is not justice. The hope for victims walking into Colorado courthouses is that they walk away with some sense of justice. But in this case,
nothing truly feels resolved.
A judge in Jefferson County dropped all charges against Guillermo Ramirez, who faced multiple counts of vehicular homicide, accused of driving a car drunk and on drugs.
The judge's hands were tied. There's nothing she could do because of the laws.
Ramirez's case became the center of our investigation after Joseph and Billy Joe Bowman, victims in the crash, reached out to us, concerned Colorado's competency laws would bring the entire case crumbling down. 3 years worth of court proceedings and 6 mental health evaluations later, it finally did.
The system is broken.
The Bowman's mom, 66-year-old Neely, and 24-year-old Bricia Leon both died from their injuries from the crash.
I know that justice will be served no matter if it didn't get served today.
State doctors found that because of his mental state, Ramirez is not and might never be fit to stand trial.
It's not common for us to challenge a doctor's report finding somebody competent or incompetent.
Allie Brady was one of the prosecutors on this case. Ramirez has had multiple interactions with law enforcement since the crash, allegedly fighting in public and violating protection orders. Transcripts obtained by Denver 7 Investigates show the lengths prosecutors went to poking holes in one of the doctor's opinions about Ramirez's ability to stand trial.
There are no clear and consistent standards for the factors that evaluators should be considering in evaluation.
Cameras were not allowed in the courtroom, but the judge made it clear that this decision is a bitter pill to swallow, saying to everyone, "I have the unenviable job of dismissing the case, even though everything in my head and my heart says the opposite."
I think it's fair for the community to be concerned that this man is released back into the community.
And we were there when Ramirez left the courthouse. Do you agree with the findings that you're incompetent? You don't want to make any comment? Any comment you want to say? After hearing the family speak up there? He would not answer any of our questions.
Of course, that's like how a coward person would act.
He might be mentally ill, but he's still very capable. He made these decisions that changed our lives.
Now the Bowmans say it's their turn to make the change. Not in a courtroom, but at Colorado's Capitol.
This is a problem that needs to be solved now at the level of the state legislature, and I have every intention of doing that.
We have been covering the ins and outs of this case extensively over the last couple of days. Just head to denver7.com to see our full reporting. For Denver 7 Investigates, I'm Natalie Chuck.